Good afternoon, everyone. It's 3 o'clock, so why don't we get started with the webinar. We're pleased that you chose to be with us today to learn about the Arts Council's Capital Arts Program. By way of introduction, my name is Tammy Rice-Herman, and I'm the Director of Grants and Strategies. And together with my colleague, Diane Felsen, we are so pleased to provide you with an overview of the Arts Council's newest grant opportunity. Should you have questions as Diane and I move through the information to help you prepare for the application process, please enter your questions in the Q&A function. I'd also like to remind you to please post your name, the name of your organization, the county where your organization is located, and whether you currently receive funding from the Arts Council through the LAP program or directly from us in that chat feature too. And as always, program officers in each discipline are reachable by telephone and email, or you may schedule an appointment for some more assistance unique to your organization. Contact information for staff is available on the Arts Council's website. In this first webinar, we'd like to provide you with the information necessary to help you prepare for the release of the application in January. We want to make sure we lift up its most salient points to help you determine if the funds application is an appropriate one for your organization based on our eligibility requirements and priorities. We know that there is a great deal of preparation involved in order to successfully submit an application, and we will be sure to highlight those requirements so that you are well informed. Although Diane and I want to be thorough in that approach, we want to ensure that you have the time to ask any questions you may have about the application process. So while we're speaking, please use that Q&A function to place your questions. Before we dive into much more detail, I'd like to take a few minutes to provide you with a brief history of the Council and its role as the state's largest arts funder. For over 50 years, the Council has keenly understood the value of arts, creativity, and innovation in New Jersey. It is the passionate work of the Council to help maintain New Jersey's unique identity by investing in the organizations and artists that keep our diverse state thriving. We achieve this mission through a wide array of programs and services. Please visit our website often and subscribe to our bi-monthly newsletter, Opportunities for the Field, to keep well informed of these future opportunities. As the largest funder of the arts in New Jersey, the Council is committed to providing both annual and multi-year grants to New Jersey's nonprofit organizations and artists. Strategic, responsible, and responsive grant making is the Council's highest priority, and the Council's initiatives have earned national recognition for excellence, innovation, and responsiveness to community needs. As you know, for the past 18 months or so, the Council has worked tirelessly to ensure dollars went out the door as quickly as possible to help nonprofit arts organizations in need. And during that process, we learned a lot about what the sector's needs were, how recovery dollars were helping, what other needs were rising to the top, and what other possible resources were available to help with those needs. We listened and we asked a lot of questions. Program officers shared their insights every week at staff meetings. The message was clear. Nonprofits needed help not only keeping the lights on, but keeping their buildings up to date and safe for audiences. Funds needed for expensive COVID updates like HVAC overhauls were too costly for typical relief project funding opportunities. Buildings already in need of updates and repair continue to deteriorate, and renovation projects were put on hold as much needed funds were diverted to adapt to the changing pandemic landscape. And we are thrilled that the Council dedicated approximately $4 million to help fill those needs for New Jersey's arts missions organizations. The Capital Arts Grant Program promotes careful planning for capital improvement, renovation, and new construction projects for nonprofit arts organizations located around the state. All organizations, regardless of size and location in the state, who meet our most basic eligibility requirements are encouraged to apply. And that's why the guidelines are released 6 weeks ahead of the application. We want everyone who has capital needs the time to read and digest the guidelines and ask questions. There is a lot of information in that document, including eligibility requirements, project parameters, and required support materials. We know that it takes time to ask questions, to plan, and to gather those materials together. And we want to ensure our staff can help you answer those questions and have the time to be able to support you. So during the course of this webinar, Diane and I will be covering 5 topics to help you in that preparation. We're going to be discussing important dates to pay attention to, eligibility requirements, required registrations and compliance, SAGE, and required support materials. So let's get to the good stuff. Is everyone ready? All right. What is Capital Arts? Funding for the Capital Arts program comes at a crucial time for our sector. As organizations continue recovering from the impact of the ongoing pandemic, as well as the effects of the recent tropical storm Ida. The Capital Arts Grant Program will support stability and resiliency through one of 3 eligible project categories: construction, repair or expansion of existing facilities, and the acquisition and/or installation of building equipment. Next slide, please. As you can see, there are a lot of really important dates that we want to make sure that you are aware of. As I mentioned earlier, the Capital Arts Grant guidelines are currently available on the Arts Council website. Please download them, read them often, and read them carefully, and be sure to jot down notes or questions that you may have so that you can ask them today or in the future contact one of our program staff. We're hosting a series of technical assistance office hours in this webinar to help you in the preparation when the application is released on January 6th. We're going to be hosting a second webinar, and that will be scheduled for January 12th, and that will deal specifically with the individual components of the application. The application is due no later than 4 o'clock on February 17th. We encourage you to submit well before that deadline because no extensions will be given for human or technical error. Next slide, please. Eligibility. Each of the Council's grant programs have specific eligibility and project requirements. It's critically important that you read the guidelines carefully to make sure that you meet them. If your organization is new to state funding, you may be surprised at the level of rigor and reporting that are required in receiving public funds. There are a number of registration, reports, and other compliance requirements that require timely, accurate, and responsive reporting to the state. Organizations are encouraged to critically examine their capacity in order to successfully manage a council grant, and this program is no exception. Please pay attention to those sections in the guidelines to ascertain if your organization is prepared and are able to meet those requirements. The Capital Arts Grant Program is open to applicants that are incorporated in New Jersey as a nonprofit organization, tax exempt, is currently registered as a charitable organization, is compliant with charities and Division of Revenue, and all pertinent state and federal regulations. Applicants must also verify that they have an arts-focused mission, have been in existence and providing public programs and services for at least 2 years, primarily serve New Jersey communities, have a board of directors responsible for the governance and administration of the organization, employ at least one half-time administrative staff person, which translates to about 20 hours a week, and that person must be responsible for contributing to the administrative oversight of the organization. Own or rent a facility that provides access to the public, is currently open and serving the public, and is in good standing with all current Department of State grant programs requirements, if applicable. And that means if you are currently managing a grant through one of the Department of State agencies, you are up to date in all those requirements. No application will be considered from an organization, even if you meet all of those eligibility requirements, without the assurance of ownership or lease. So no grant will be awarded without one of the support materials showing that you have a signed lease, copy of a deed, and the written consent from the property owner. The Capital Arts Grant Program cannot accept an application from an organization that does not meet the eligibility requirements that I just spoke of, or is a K through 12 school, is a college or a university, or is an auxiliary support person such as a friends organization, or a municipality, or a unit of government. If you have a question regarding your organization's eligibility, please ask one of us or contact a program officer to discuss the requirements and how they apply to your organization. Next slide, please. Successful applicants will establish the ability of their organization to manage a project that is well planned and detailed in its execution. And first in that pursuit is the identification of an eligible project. For all requests, applicants, again, must demonstrate control of the property through either a deed or a valid lease, and the project must fall into one of the 3 eligible project categories that we showed in a slide earlier. This slide contains examples of projects that clearly reside within one of those 3 project categories. Applicants may request grant funds up to $250,000. Grant requests over that amount will not be considered. However, if your project costs exceed that grant amount requested, your proposal must clearly demonstrate your ability to procure the remaining necessary funds to complete the project. There is no matching requirement for requests under $100,000. For requests over that amount, the project must be supported through a 50% match. In-kind contributions are not eligible towards match requirements. Next slide, please. The following capital associated projects that you see on this screen are not eligible for support through this grant program. So please look at them very carefully. And again, if you have any questions, please ask us. We want to make sure that the project that you're putting forth for consideration could be funded. So there may be a way that we could have a conversation in looking at your project needs that would fall hopefully would fall into one of the eligible categories. Next slide, please. The council's application is made up of many components, as you saw in the guidelines. We know it is a rigorous application, but we worked really hard to make it relevant and meaningful. Our guidelines are the key to help you successfully fill out each form, chart, and narrative that make up the application. And before that application is released in Sage on January 6th, there are 6 key components that you can work on and complete now. And Diane is going to speak to those components that will start you on the path to putting together a complete, thorough, and successful application. Diane?
Thank you, Tammy. We are going to quickly go through the things you could be working on now before the application opens in the Sage system. The first, of course, being registration in our Sage system. NJ Start, registration with the New Jersey Division of Revenue, Consumer Affairs, working on a project plan that is in line with the eligibility requirements that Tammy has explained, and gathering and developing the support materials that will be required components of a successful application. More detailed information is always available on the Arts Council's website, including tutorials on NJ Start, Division of Revenue, and Consumer Affairs. So for Sage, To access and submit the Capital Arts application in January, an organization must be registered in the SAGE system. The SAGE system is the system for administering grants electronically. The Arts Council is part of the Department of State, and the Department of State uses something called Blue Sage. And the web address specifically to this version of SAGE is at sage.nj.gov. If you're not currently registered in SAGE, it's very important to do it now. Get registered, click on the new user link, and get yourself registered. It does take time to process a registration, and it could take up to 48 hours for that to take place. So the earlier you start, the faster everything else will get moving for you. SAGE is a web-based application. You need to be using Windows or a Macintosh computer system. You need to have an internet connection. Any web browser will work for you, but Google Chrome is our preferred web browser, and the ability to create PDF files and read PDF files through Adobe Acrobat is very important. As I mentioned earlier, Blue Sage is the Sage that we are using, and this is an example of what Blue Sage looks like when you arrive at the login screen. Please make sure you are in Blue Sage because your login in a different version of Sage will not work. Again, this is where you go to create a new username or correct your password. The program officers here at the council do not have access to your passwords. So it is very important when you do create a password to write it down and note it in a safe place so that you are able to reference it in the future. If you are registering for the first time, this is what the registration page will look like. You will see that you'll be asked to provide a lot of information about your organization, including your tax ID number, your address, email, website, and this is where you're creating your username and password. It's very important that the email that you provide here is the one that you would like the council to be using to communicate with you. Make sure you're providing an email address that is checked regularly. Your info or your about email addresses that aren't checked frequently would not be a good one to stick in this field. Also, please remember, we are part of the Department of State and we are the State Council on the Arts. So the granting department agency that you select at the second field is Department of State Council on the Arts. Once again, a reminder to record your username and password. The authorized official for your organization is the person who completes all of this information. This is also the person that would create usernames for any other employees at your organization that you would like to have access to your Sage account. So it's very good to think about any new employees that have joined your organization in the last few months who may not have used Sage yet, who may need access to Sage. This is a great time to take a look at everything, see who's connected to your account. Have you had employee changes? Do you want more people to be a part of the grant application process for your organization? Let's create some user IDs for everybody. Once you create a user account, you'll never have to do it again. It's a one-time process. But please remember, approval and registration does not happen automatically. So again, it's not good to wait until the last minute to register in Sage. Do it early and you will not be stressed out about deadlines. Once you have access to the Sage system, this is what the home screen looks like. You will see that there is a number of tabs, links, and information customized specifically to your profile. When you have access to the Sage system, it's very important to first click on the profile link, which you'll see in the black bar in the white letters. Even if you're already registered in Sage, please check this section and make sure that this information is still correct for your organization. Once that is confirmed, the next link to check on would be your organization's link, which is again within the black bar. There are two sections to click here. The first step is to look here and make sure that all the information for your organization is correct, including your DUNS number and your SAM cage code if you're connected to federal funding. After you do that, you'll see here with the purple letters to click on organizational details. There is additional required information at this link. There are two links here in this table that you need to click on that are required for the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. You'll see the first one is a board chart, and the second one is something that is required for all applicants to the Department of State. The additional profile information page, which you'll see here, will be asking you for things such as your charity's registration, your division of revenue registration, your certificate numbers, your congressional district. Please make sure to complete all of these fields, including the fields in the blue box below. And always remember to look at the blue bar at the top of the page and click Save. The board chart is also something that is a required field. Please complete the information and remember to click Save. After you confirm all the information for your organization is correct and updated, come back to the home page and you'll see that there's an inbox customized just for you, where you will find information and emails that have been sent to the email address on file in a Sage system that's related to your applications, opportunities you've been interested in, important communication from us to you. My screen just went blank. Just one moment. I apologize for that delay. We're just going to start here at the profile information again. Just want to make sure that, once again, look at the profile page, make sure that everything is correct here, and you can come update these fields. Organizations link. This is the section to make sure that your organizational information is correct, and then it's very important within this page to click on organization details. The two links here in this table, New Jersey State Council on the Arts board chart, and then the additional profile information are both required for applicants to the Arts Council. Your inbox, it contains the important information that we've been emailing to you. So if you're not getting those emails, you can always log into Sage and find the emails here. And finally, my tasks. This is a to-do list for you. It's also, if you are working on an application and you are like me and you like to save and come back to it repeatedly, you go to my tasks to find the link to continue working on your application. More thorough details about Sage and how to navigate it can be found on the grant opportunities section of the council's website. And you can always contact the program officer and we will be more than happy to help you navigate the system. So once you do Sage, that's step one with getting ready for this grant opportunity. Once that's done, then we need to look at the other required components for a successful application. That would be registration with the NJ Start system. NJ Start is how you get money from us. Even if you've previously done business with the council, if you're a previous grantee, registration with NJ Start is now a requirement. So take a look. We have a tutorial on our website on how to navigate the system if you've never done it before, but it's good to look into what needs to be done to register now. The same with the New Jersey Division of Revenue. This is a requirement, and you must be currently registered as a nonprofit corporation, an NP. If you acquired your nonprofit incorporation from another state and you're registered in the state of New Jersey as a foreign nonprofit, you are not eligible for this grant opportunity. We have a direct link to receive your online business registration certificate on the grant opportunities of our section of our website. And finally, the Division of Consumer Affairs. This is another requirement. You have to be compliant with the Division of Consumer Affairs at the time of applying for this opportunity. This is also known as charities registration. If your charities registration is non-existent, if it's incomplete or it's expired, your application would not be able to move into the next phase of the review process. So it is a great time to look into your registration, make sure you're current, and if you're not current, you still have time to register. And finally, these are support materials that will be required with your application. The reason we release these guidelines early is because we know that it's complicated. We know that it's going to take time to gather these materials. It's really a great idea to start now. This way, it won't be an overwhelming experience when the application opens in January. So step one is your audit. We will be asking for your fiscal year 20 and your fiscal year 21 audit to be uploaded. We'd like them to be combined in a single PDF. If you have still not completed your fiscal year 21 audit, you will be expected to provide that to us as soon as possible. If this is not submitted to us and you successfully receive a grant award, you will be deemed ineligible. So please do everything you can to have this information ready to provide to the council. If you lease your building, you will need to provide us a copy of your lease. If you own your building, you'll have to provide a copy of the deed. Sometimes this paperwork is hard to acquire quickly. It's a great time to start looking for it. If you hold a lease to the building, there will be a question in the grant application that is going to ask you to confirm that your lease requires you to be responsible for capital improvements to your building. And you'll be asked to tell us where we can find that information within your lease. So take a look at your lease and make sure that you are authorized to make these changes that you're proposing in your grant application. Additionally, we will need consent letters from the property owner and the applicant to be included as support materials, saying that this project is permitted. If you own your property, the consent letter will be coming from a member of your board and the applicant. If you do not own the property, it's coming from the person who owns the building. We'll be asking for the credentials of all the people who will be working on the project. And please remember, if you are working with an architect, the architect must be licensed within the state of New Jersey. We'll be asking for a timeline and a scope statement for the project that specifically details your plan. We will be asking for photographs, images of the site, and also of the areas of concern that you're addressing. A map or a site plan that shows your entire property. Completed documents related to the planning for your project. If there are construction documents or manuals, please provide those. And of course, any estimates that you've secured that you use to create the project budget. So with that, we're going to pause the formal presentation of the webinar, and we will open things up to address the questions that have been submitted so far. Thank you for your time. Please remember the website of the Arts Council is a resource for you. You can access it at artscouncil.nj.gov, and you can always contact a program officer to help you with any other specific questions you may have.
Thank you, Diane. There were only a few questions that were submitted in the Q&A feature. The first was whether or not a recording of this webinar would be posted on our website. And yes, I did answer that a recording will be available early to midweek next week, and you can reference it at your own time and place to help you. Some more questions are coming in, so I'll pose them to you, Diane. Is equipment such as outdoor furniture eligible?
No, equipment is not eligible. This is a capital program. So unfortunately, think of it this way. If it's something that can get thrown away, it's probably not eligible for this opportunity. This is specific to construction, repair, like a rewiring, building service equipment, that sort of thing. But outdoor furniture would not qualify.
Next question. Our theater is on the New Jersey National Register of Historic Places. I believe we are not eligible for funding from the council. Is this correct?
Yes, for this opportunity, if you are presenting a proposal to take place in a building or structure that is historic and on the National or the New Jersey Register, it's not eligible for this opportunity. However, the New Jersey Historic Trust does have a lot of opportunities for capital work on historic structures. And there's also a foundation called the 1772 Foundation, which has been known to fund projects in New Jersey. So we recommend you look into support from them.
Our organization is not required to fulfill the audit requirement. I understand what a Form 990 is, but what is the financial review? And the
Tammy, how about you do that?
I can do that one. The financial review is performed by a CPA or other tax professional that provides a quick overview of the financial position of your organization. It does not contain any of the other scope of duties found in a regular single or yellow book audit.
I see a question from Karen Hollywood here about vehicles and transportation. And yes, no, vehicles, that's equipment. So no, but an electric car charging station, the creation of this, I think we should talk about the specifics behind this project because just as a generality, I feel like that it wouldn't be eligible, but Karen, if you'd like to call me and just talk it through a little more deeply, we can absolutely have a deeper discussion.
Here is another question. If a fiscal year 21 or 20 audit is not available, besides a letter of explanation, do you need a current statement of activity or any other current financial standing? And the answer would be no. We would require your audit Form 990 or financial review. We have another question from Daniela Kerner. Can you please describe the process or requirements for projects over 100,000 versus 250,000? Correct me if I'm wrong, Danielle, but the process would be exactly the same except for the matching requirement. So all of the required support material would be exactly the same. However, for projects over 100,000, you would be showing a 50% match. For projects that are over 250,000, you would be showing in your income chart where the other sources of funding are coming from to complete your project. We have another question. Infrastructure like elevators or gates eligible for this project? Yes, elevators and gates would be eligible. Here's a question. If we engage a licensed architect prior to the grant award, would that fee be counted towards our match? I'm not sure I understand that question. Because the fee is an expense, not a source of income. Could you explain a little bit more if you wouldn't mind writing more?
Yeah.
And I think we got all of these questions answered. So if there's any more.
I saw that while we were talking, some conversation was happening within the chat. Just a reminder that if you did submit a question in the chat, to please use the Q&A function so that we can answer it live while we're all with you today.
Okay, here we go. Here's a more explanation. If we engage a licensed architect prior to the grant award, would that fee be counted towards our match? The fee to engage a licensed architect is not part of the expenses of this and should be not counted as part of your project expenses.
I need a little more explanation from Mr. Halsey asking if we would cover life safety. Oh, smoke detectors, cameras. Again, that's equipment, but again, the difference would be hardwiring versus buying something that's operated by a battery and sticking it on your ceiling. So if you're hardwiring for a system that requires, putting wires in your walls and working through your building, that's a different type of project versus buying pieces of equipment and installing it in your facility. The same thing, again, for like key card entry, etc. It's the type of project as a whole, because key cards could be separate equipment. The complexity of the project. Again, this would be the specificity of what you're requesting. It would be great to reach out to a program officer so that you can tell us more of the complexities involved in your plan, and we'd be happy to walk you through it.
Here's another question, Diane. Can you describe a project that requires multiple components such as roof, windows, lighting, doors, not equipment? A project that requires multiple components would be one in which those multiple components are in one space. For example, if you had a campus that had multiple buildings, picking very specific projects in multiple buildings would not be eligible. However, if you were focusing on one space that had multiple issues, such as installing ADA compliant doors to be able to allow wheelchairs to pass through. If you needed a new roof on that space, you were also looking at better insulation, and so you needed new windows. All of those features would count as an eligible project for that same space. Mm-hmm. You could not cherry pick multiple projects over the course of multiple buildings on your campus.
I see more questions related to securing an architect for a project and the costs associated with it. Mr. McNamara, if you would like to reach out to a program officer to maybe give us a little more detail, because I feel like maybe I'm not understanding the full depth of your question. Let us know what project you're thinking about, and we'll be happy to talk with you more.
Here is a question. Do you have any leads for matching partners or have suggestions as to umbrella organizations that someone may contact? Unfortunately, we do not have suggestions for leads for matching partners or umbrella organizations. We're hoping that the runway time between the release of these guidelines and the application would allow organizations ample time to do their homework and find out where other sources of funding may be for larger scale projects. We have another question. Are freestanding new buildings covered? I will answer probably, but more specific information about the type of project that you're looking for would be really important. So Karen, if you'd like to contact a program officer or Diane or myself, we'd be happy to have a conversation about the type of project you're looking for in a freestanding new building. We have another question about when the money would be released if awarded. For those of you who have had grants with the Arts Council, our awards will be announced at the May 2022 council meeting. Contracts will be opened shortly thereafter. Once those are completed by the awardees and reviewed by program officers, funding will be released for the project. And for those of you familiar with the council's project, that usually happens within 4 to 6 weeks.
Alicia Moore submitted a question asking about, in addition to a room in one section of the building and a foundation repair in another part of the building, can they be included in one project? The only way they could be included is if they're related. They're related in the way that you submit your proposal. But yes.
Here's another question. Would the matching partner need to be put in the original application, or when if we were going to be awarded? as both Diane and I talked about, if a project costs over $250,000, we would need to see evidence that you would be able to contribute the funds to complete the project if the project costs over $250,000.
Maria is asking about program officer contacts. The Arts Council's website the About page has a list of every single program officer that works here at the council. And in the chat before we close the meeting, I'm more than happy to put my email address in there for you, Maria.
We also have a question from an anonymous attendee. Can funding be applied retroactively? For example, if a capital project is an emergency project that was in January, I'm assuming, of 2021, would that project be eligible for funding? And the answer is no.
Unfortunately.
And then we have another question. Has the capital program funding for the Arts Council historically been at this level, 4 million for 2022 comparative to other years and going forward into next year? The Capital Arts Program is launching for the first time this year because of the need that we have heard from the field in our ongoing conversations with grantees and potential applicants. So hopefully this project could be replicated in the future, but we don't know if that will happen. And that appears to be all of the questions for right now. Diane, do you want me to grab names and email addresses of all the program officers for folks to be able to reach out?
That would be great.
Okay.
And if anyone else has any questions, this is your opportunity to submit a question to Tammy and me. With that, we'd like to thank everyone for their time on this Friday afternoon. We very much appreciate you joining us today, and we appreciate your interest in our program. Program officers at the council are here to assist you at any time, and we hope to hear from you, and we wish you luck as you work on this very robust application, and we're excited to see how we can help you.